Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, whoever decides to watch this video of this random guy talking to you about picking a solo. Nice to meet you. I am getting into the transition of break, Christmas coming up, semesters winding down, juries, all the wonderful stuff that music majors have to go through. It's kind of coming to a stopping point, but me and my productive self, I love finding ways to just kind of keep me growing, right? Consistent growth is just something, it's like my drug. I don't know, I'm just weird like that. Today I want to bring to you guys 3 concepts to think about when you are choosing your solo. Solo, duet, ensemble piece, right? A trio or quartet. Just something, things to keep in mind, because I feel like sometimes we don't know what to look for, and sometimes we're just given pieces, and sometimes we just stumble upon pieces and don't really think some of these things through. So hopefully by the end of this video, you'll be able to have some tools to use when you are looking for solos. I have a solo right here that I think is a great one to keep in mind with these three ideas. So let's get started. The first idea to think about is time. Right? Some of you guys, maybe a majority of you all, have solo and ensemble, right? Solo ensemble is an idea where a student will pick a piece and they will play it in front of a judge, someone that has a lot of proficiency, right? Some literacy on their own instrument, and judges grades it from a position of good, excellent, superior, or distinguished in some cases. And a lot of kids can end up procrastinating. I know I certainly did when I went into this mode of knowing I had to pick a piece for solo and ensemble. I don't think any year I kind of was really ahead of the game on that one, and I never thought about these things really when I picked my piece. I was just like, hey, this looks cool, and just snatched it right on up. The first idea being time, right? Know the amount of time you're going to need to take this piece. Is it a month, 2 months, 3 months? Heck, are you preparing for the next year even? If so, this is going to really affect the piece you get, right? If you have a week to prepare a piece, you're not going to be picking something with a high difficulty in your range of skill, right? But if you have a good amount of time, if you have a year, man, you can crank out a really complex piece for your skill level, just because you'll have a lot of time to acquiring, to getting that piece under your belt, right? To really getting it comfortable and solid, and getting some emotion in that piece, which is that last stage of the piece that can seem difficult to get if you're not properly preparing yourself for a performance. So time is the first one. The second one is ability, right? My ability is probably going to be different from your ability. Your ability is probably different from everyone else in your class. Every individual is different. Depends on how much people practice, right? What they practice, and how often they're practicing those things that are difficult versus practicing those things that are easy and easy to maintain. My cat's clawing at the rug. So ability level, right? This is going to change. And when you look at the piece, think about, what is this asking of me, and how confident am I in myself, knowing that I will be able to execute these ideas. And if it's a difficult thing for you to be able to execute, then it's going to take a little bit more time, right? But if it's something that's easy for you to execute, you're not going to have to spend as much time learning the piece, because it's just going to be something that you already have in your toolbox, right? I hope that makes sense. So ability, that will change depending on a beginner, right? Even if you're a beginner, your ability is going to be different from a different beginner's ability. Me being a transfer student into university, I have a different ability than other people around my grade of being a sophomore, junior, kind of weird spectrum. And I know other transfers that are very ability next to mine. So know where your abilities are. If I would highly encourage you to have a list and pick the difficult things and the easy things, right? So what am I good at? What do I know I feel pretty solid at? What I know that I'm not so good at, right? Is it easy for me to acquire a musical sound on my instrument, right? Am I very great at understanding rhythmic ideas and executing some really great rhythms through nice articulations, or are articulate rhythms very difficult for you to get under your belt, and usually you have to spend a lot of time on it? Are you someone that likes something that flows? Are you something that gravitates towards something that is very percussive, right? All these things need to come in mind. What technical things on your instrument are difficult for you to maintain versus what things are easier for you to maintain. Fix this real quick. So ability is number 2. Number three is complexity, right? It's not the same thing as ability, but because ability is on yourself. Complexity is on the piece, right? The piece can be a medium advanced level, it can be advanced, it can be a medium level, it can be a beginner level, right? And solo and ensemble lists, there are grades, right? So it'll be grade 1 through 7, I think. I don't know how high grades go on solo and ensemble lists, but acknowledge the fact that those grades are going to ask for a certain level of complexity, and that complexity is going to relate to what you do well, right? If you really take a look at some of these grades on solo and ensemble lists, or just looking around on mediums and advanced and medium advanced pieces, and some things that are just out of the ballpark, realizing that one grade 3 may not be the same as another grade 3, right? This may be an easy grade 3, and this one's a difficult grade 3, maybe closer to 4, right? And that can be true with all grades of music. So that becomes a process that needs to continue as you look at all your music. I can't drop boxes. So it needs to be something that you think about with all your music, right? Think about the complexity of the piece, right? If you're going for something pretty complex, like if you not even just complex for your ability's sake, but for the piece's sake, it's complex, and it's weird time signature, has a lot of meter changes, it's asking a lot dynamically, right? At this point, it's not. Of course, your ability comes into play, but you know that there's just a lot of complex things coming from the piece in general, just from the nature of how it's made and the musician it is made for. Yeah, a grade 3 may be easy for you if you're someone that can easily handle grade 7, right? And someone that usually plays grade 5s, maybe grade 7 may be achievable depending on the amount of time and energy you're deciding to focus on the piece in preparation mode. So that being said, time, ability, and complexity, right? All these 3 things need to be at the foundation of what you set out to when you set out to explore a new piece, right? Think about how much time you actually have to execute this piece, and you want to execute it well. Yeah, so you want to have it done. Some people, like, depending on how important the performance is, right? Because priorities, right? You might want to have it actually done 2 weeks before you actually perform it, or a month before you perform it, to where you're just getting into this flow state of adjusting small ideas, right? musical things. How fast do I want to go? How slow do I want to go? When you really have control over the wheel of the piece, and you know exactly where you're going, you just want to creatively get there by your own interpretation of the journey. Right? So that time, the ability of all the members, the ability of you. If it's duet, think of where your strengths are, where the things that need improvement. Write them down. Like write down what you feel confident in and what you don't feel confident in, and have both of you guys do that, and then choose a piece that just plays to those strengths, right? Because in the practice room, that's when you focus on those problematic areas. But when you have performance, you want when you have a performance piece, you want to focus on those strengths. You don't want to focus on those weaknesses. That's for when you practice. Unless it's a piece that you like, it's an etude, right? Unless it's a piece that you know you're working up in order to really tackle the things that you do not execute well. Right, but that's really good place for etudes and exercises. Not so much for solo work. That's for just getting better at the things you can already do pretty well. And then complexity of the piece. Right, some pieces, in their complex nature, you can go to state for solo ensemble with, or you can win competitions with. Right, just find those really complex pieces. Should have 3 types of pieces in their constantly revolving in their repertoire. A piece that when you read it or look at it the first time, it is something that you can play pretty much like, I would say 75 to 80% of the notes and rhythmic figures and the musical things. You can play them all pretty well. I would say like 75 to 80%. Yeah. And then so that's the one that you can really get musical with. You can really develop a sense of, man, this feels like I have complete control over the musicality of this piece, because you're not focused on technical problems. Yeah. And then the second type of piece should be a piece that maybe you get like 50 to 65% of the things right on the page, but there's still a clear room for growth. And I think that's in a comfortable level where you can focus on musicality, but there's still notes and there's still rhythmic ideas, and there's still dynamic ideas that just are not as easy for you to grasp. I think that's a really good midpoint. And then you should have that complex piece that you can get like 20 to 30% of the of course these percentages aren't like not very specific, but 30% of the notes correct. That means that you got a lot. You got like 70 to 80% of the piece like is completely difficult. It's just like it's hard to wrap your mind around it. There's things you didn't even know you didn't know on the piece, and that is going to be a piece that will last you a while, because that's going to be the piece that really breaks the barrier of your musicianship, that makes you play on the edge of your ability. And when you play on the edge of your ability, when you really get into that space of the unknown, when you push yourself, that's when you grow. That is when you grow. You don't grow when you play things that are comfortable, when you play things that are easy for you to digest. You grow when you push your musicality, when you push your ability. That's when growth occurs. So that piece would be just a monster piece that once you're able to actually execute it, that's going to be something that you are really proud of. That's like hiking Mount Everest. Like it's going to be that moment in your life where it's like a checkpoint. It's like you beat the boss in your favorite game. And once you do that, that's gonna be a piece you can like win competitions with. That's just a really proud personal piece for you. If you're a beginner, that's gonna be a really high point in your musical journey. But after that, you have to choose another one. So it's like you're constantly reaching. You're constantly in the state of something that's comfortable but not too comfortable, and you're in the state of something that is very comfortable, and you can just kind of let yourself relax and get into the musicality. Get into really developing musicianship that can hopefully carry over to the other pieces once you get those notes, rhythmic figures, and ideas more under your belt. Time, ability, complexity. So here I got, I'm looking at piece, so I have to play a recital. An education major, I have to do one recital. I would like to do two, but me personally, knowing how much I'm going to be dedicating myself to education throughout university, I don't think it's practical to do two. But I want to do one really well. And I found I was looking for pieces to play on my recital, which is a solo performance with, I think, 30 minutes of music by an individual, right? That has to be done throughout university or college, right? So I chose this piece, Fantasy for vibraphone, right? And I don't even know if I can say that. Jesse Monkman. I hope I'm saying that right. But I just love how this piece sounds. It's really, so me personally, I have not played many things on the vibraphone. It's one of the instruments I've neglected. I love. It sounds beautiful, and I've honestly, the first time I played on a vibraphone that has I'm a percussionist, clearly. The first time I played on a vibraphone, they have motors, right, where it gives you that vibrato, right? It really makes it voice-like. The first time I played on one of those is when I got here to university, which is crazy. So it's one of those instruments I've neglected to really spend time with, and I love this piece. It goes through different meters. It challenges musicianship. I'll have to play. It looks like I have to play 3 amounts. So I'm going to get into. I think this is the piece I'm going to dive into when I talk about learning a solo. But right now we're talking about finding a solo, and this is going to be that piece that isn't too difficult for me to play. I don't see the notes being much of a problem for me personally. For me, it's going to be musicianship and just really taking time to feel comfortable and exploring the musical ability of the vibraphone itself. This also has a lot of meter changes. It's going to be fun analyzing this piece for sure, but these are some of the ideas I thought about when it comes to picking this piece out. That was my cat. Picking this piece out. Time, ability, and complexity. And I will see you guys later. Yeah, hope you got some things out of this, out of these ideas, and that you can use it to really kind of direct your focus when picking a piece. My cat is having a lot of fun right now. Oh my gosh. Okay. This is the cat that keeps. This is Oliver. Say hello, Oliver. She's a butthead. Yeah. And she keeps making noise this entire video. But this is Oliver. Now you met her. Thought it was him when we got her. Found out she was a girl. Got so used to saying Oliver. Just becomes Oliver. It's still Oliver. Oliver. Alright. Until next time. See you.